The first time I met Secretary Gates was at a briefing in the Pentagon in early 2007. He was relatively new to the SecDef job, and I was the commander of Special Operations Command Europe. At the time, I was pitching a very controversial operation to conduct a long-range kinetic strike against a mid-level al-Qaeda leader. There was considerable resistance to the operation, both in the Pentagon and around the interagency. Throughout the briefing, the Secretary remained poker-faced, and I expected that as a result of the broad interagency resistance, the Secretary wouldn't recommend the mission to the President. He had nothing to gain by approving the mission and a lot to lose in light of the fact that he was new on the job and we were navigating some uncharted waters. Well, when the brief was over, he turned to me and said, "Bill, can we do this and should we do this?" I responded that we could and we should. He turned to the chairman and simply said, "I approve the mission." It was a remarkable example of trust in your subordinates and a leadership quality that I would continue to see throughout my interaction with the Secretary. Over the course of the next 4 years, while I was the commander of SOC-UR and then later the commander of JSOC, Secretary Gates approved dozens of similar missions against the most lethal threats to the United States. In deciding the value of those missions, he was always thoughtful, judicial, apolitical, and always looking out for the very best interests of the nation. But in my mind, the mission that characterized his leadership the best was the May 2nd raid into Pakistan. Flashing back to some 30 years earlier, Secretary Gates had been in the White House during the failed attempt to rescue the hostages in Iran. He witnessed firsthand the political and military fallout of a mission gone bad, and certainly he remembered the loss of life from that mission. Needless to say, he had some concerns about long-range helicopter operations, certainly ones into foreign countries without their knowledge. But even with those concerns and the reputation of the Department of Defense on the line, he encouraged me to provide the President all the courses of action I thought were feasible. He wanted the President to have every option on the table because he knew the Commander-in-Chief needed to hear every competing argument. They say that integrity is doing the right thing when nobody is watching. Well, sometimes integrity is doing the right thing when everybody is watching. Every key leader around the sit-room table knew that Bob Gates was doing the right thing. I also knew that regardless of the raid's outcome, Secretary Gates would stand by me and the men who conducted the mission. Never in my 35 years of service have I had the opportunity to work with a finer, nobler public servant than Secretary Bob Gates. His common sense, his commitment to the troops, his sense of duty to the nation are unsurpassed, and it has been my highest honor to have served with him.